Good morning, Judith.
Good morning, Sonya.
Welcome to the Coach's Cup. I'm Sonya Green from sonyagreencoaching.com.
And I'm Judith Fender. I'm one of the amazing No BS coaches with the No BS weight loss program.
And you are amazing. I agree.
Oh, thank you.
Today, we are talking about asking better questions because sometimes people work themselves into a state of stuckness because they ask the wrong questions.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we want to talk about today. I think we've both seen this in coaching clients. They start thinking, especially, if I tell them they need to be journaling, they start, well, what do I need to be journaling about? I don't know if I'm doing this right. I don't, and before you know it, they've got all of this little thought tornado.
I'm like, Sonya, wait a minute. Our clients, what about us? Like,
well, maybe us too.
There's a little bit of that goes on in my life almost every day. So this is absolutely the perfect conversation to be having today.
Right? It is.
Moving forward. All
right.
So
how to ask better questions. So we were talking about this, and there are a couple of things that can lead us to asking better questions. Okay. And one of the things we were talking about is identifying our values.
Yes, that's so important to know, because oftentimes we can find ourselves or clients. I'm going to talk about me.
Okay.
When I'm in conflict with a person or a situation, it's because it's conflicting with my values. And oftentimes, by using the model, I find it's because I'm not aligned. My thinking is not aligned with my values. We talk about that. So there's knowing your values is important, because then you see when you are not getting the result you want in your life, what the conflict is.
Yeah, I was listening to Brene Brown's Dare to Lead, and she talks a lot about understanding what your values are and how important it is to be aware of them, because so many of our decisions, so many of our conflicts come from those values. And many times we walk through life without ever really understanding what our values are. And so one thing that my husband and I did after I listened to the book, she has a list of values that you can print out. And so I went through and circled about 10 or 11. That's what she suggested. And she'd suggest, just circling a bunch of them and then going back and really pinpointing which 2 or 3 are core values for you.
Right.
And so I did that, and I had my husband do that. And it was interesting. Our values really align. And
cool.
Yeah, even though they weren't exactly the same, they were like along the same lines. And I wish, it's been a couple months since we did that. I wish I could remember exactly what they were, like the wording. But so both of us, financial stability is one of our values that's important to us. And it affects the way we spend money. It affects the way we make money. It affects a lot of the things we do. But I think one of us had it listed as ambition, and one of us had it listed as the wording was slightly different, but it was interesting because both of us, the core was that we wanted financial stability. And, it came from both of us, from our childhood, from patterns that started way back then.
Old programming.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I'm getting ready to go off on a tangent. It was similar thought pattern. I was coaching a client the other day, or it was in my thinking about, a big part of changing thought patterns is recognizing and cheering yourself on, right? Like celebrating the small wins. And we've podcasted on that before. So that got me thinking about, what is the difference in being affirming and being a cheerleader? And so I went down the Googles and found that, that like cheerleading is like that feelings are fleeting, but affirmations are to character traits that we like, which is similar to this thinking you're doing around values. It was like trusting and empathetic. And, so those are character traits that you want to affirm in yourself. So along the similar lines of.
I love that. I can see how that's useful, because so many times we think about those interchangeably. I have to be the cheerleader for myself.
Yes.
And that never has resonated with me.
And I feel similarly, like, and sometimes when coaching, like I want to be true to what feels true to me too. I'm not a big cheerleader.
Yeah.
I do, but I get the premise and the science behind it and the change talk that needs to happen. But I really like the affirming, because I'm a trusting person. I trust myself.
Yeah.
I trust myself by following my plan, or, following the dotted line on the road, staying between the solid and the dotted, like how we all trust that everyone's going to follow the rules.
Yeah.
So there's my okay.
I love that. So part of asking better questions is to understanding those values, those important traits, and bringing those out somehow, making your questions more about what's really going to be important to me. Asking, what is your compelling reason? It's got to go back to your values.
Your values. Oh, that's so good. Yeah. So true.
Yeah. So you go next. I started us out with values. What's another way? Huh?
I'm like organization. So I have this. I have this thought that Sonya is so much more organized than me. And when we get on the podcast, she provides structure, and
that's me, Sonya, prim and proper. So, right. Well, stuckness is very self-focused. And feeling like you're not asking the right question, that can be because we're focused too much on us.
Right. Is this is where we want to tell that story?
Yeah.
Drive home. Can we where did we find it from? Did we just hear it out there somewhere?
Well, actually, I think this one came from The Big Leap, right? The podcast.
Right, where he was talking about the client that was perseverating on his problem and had been stuck for quite a while, and called him and was asking Gay for, advice, whatever. And Gay was listening to him and said, well, let me ask you this. On your way home, what did something stick out to you? What stuck out to you? And it was that he had noticed his elderly neighbor's front porch needed to be swept. And so he went and did that. Gay told him to go do it.
While he was on the phone.
While he was on the phone, he waited and he came back and he talked about how much better he felt. And what this did was get his thinking outside the box, got him in motion, got him forward moving.
Yeah. And I see this with students today a lot, because I think our young people and our middle-aged people, we get very self-absorbed. We are, and especially with COVID, because we have kind of pulled back from other people. But it is so easy for young people to get stuck in their phones or on their computers or, in social media, and they get so inside themselves that this anxiety builds up, and they don't know what to do with it. And just giving them something forward focusing can just be a release. When we were kids, I'm not going to say we both had to walk uphill both ways to school or anything like that. But, I had chores. I lived on a farm. I did not have a lot of time to sit and focus on me. And thankfully, I am very thankful I didn't have social media to focus on as a teenager, because that's so tough. But, we didn't have a lot of time to sit and focus on us. And I think now we have so much more time to sit and just kind of be self-absorbed.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that being the source of our stuckness often.
Right. And, we see that often in weight loss clients, like that when the thoughts are so inward direction, where they're hating on their body, where they're absolutely just so focused on what they don't have, and not seeing what they do have and the potential there. Like, because again, they are so inward focused.
Yeah.
They can't see outside of themselves how to take that step forward. That's some stuckness.
Yeah. Yeah. And just, not only does it get you unstuck, but it also does something for somebody else.
Right. Right.
And it's funny how just that little jiggle in your brain, that redirect can be the movement you need.
So true. So true. And we all need it, whether it's in our weight loss journey, whether it's in organizing our lives or whatnot. This is transferable.
Yes.
To any area that you are stuck.
Yeah. No, I see it happen often with clients of mine who are in a job and they don't feel like they can take that next step, or they don't feel like their boss likes them, or they, it's something that's happening to them. And if you hear yourself starting to play the victim, that's always a key. That right there should cue up the music that you need to focus outward. For me, if I start seeing myself as the victim in some situation, I know that I am too self-absorbed, that I am too self-focused, and I need to get out of myself.
That is so true. The many times I have noticed the similar, when I think, oh, I can't, no one wants to hear what I have to say, blah, 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 normal brain stuff. But when you get hooked into it and you feel stuck, it shows up in other areas. And I don't move forward in small projects or work on my calendar. And so getting outside of myself, serving someone else, seeing the bigger picture is just expanding my thinking and my values.
Yeah. And, many times that's driven by that other thing that we've talked about, which is fear.
Oh gosh.
Many
times, we have to be afraid of?
Yeah. What do we have to be afraid of?
Right? There are no dinosaurs. There are no, oh my gosh, this is funny. Okay. I'm afraid of the dark. I'm sure I've mentioned it somewhere in a podcast, but I came across a TikTok, actually I'm not on TikTok. It was on Instagram, but how Instagram shares the TikToks.
Yeah.
And it was the lady, and I watched it the first time and I was like, what is she doing? So she's like shutting a light off, and then she runs to the next room and she shuts in, and there's like this shadow behind her, right? Like this person. I totally got it. I was like, oh my God, that is me. I totally am afraid, like had that vision of, that there is something chasing behind me when I turn the lights out. And I had no idea that other people had this fear.
Because we get so self-focused that we think it's only us.
Anyway,
right? We do.
Sorry for the bunny trail. It's
no. I think that's a great example.
Yeah, and she like runs and jumps in the bed, and then the shadow thing goes like, darn, like Mister, just Mister, because you know how you would tell yourself, if I get on the bed, it can't get me. And, and like, I was like, wow, I just like that whole 30 seconds of this woman shutting off lights, running to get to her bed, spoke volumes to me about the human brain. Like, we are programmed for fear to survive. Like this is not,
Yeah.
this can be a problem if we
Uh-huh.
don't have awareness.
Yeah, and I've been thinking and writing a lot about that in recent weeks. I don't really know what started it, but it's the whole thing is very curious to me how we're wired to negativity and wired to fear, and maybe we'll have to talk about that sometime.
Mhm.
But that's also it, it's this tug of war because it does make us afraid to step out and do things, but
Mhm.
it's also the thing that keeps pushing us a little bit and
Right.
nudging us forward just a little bit.
If we
um
think of fear as not a problem, but oh, I'm moving in the right direction. This
yeah.
scares me just enough.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. So maybe we'll talk about that sometime, but here we're talking about fear causing your stuckness.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think one of the most powerful things that we can do is recognize fear for what it is,
Mhm.
because fear likes to mask itself.
Mhm.
One of the big things I see, and you probably see this too, is it masks itself as anger.
Yeah. A lot of things. Anger. Oh
Yeah.
boy. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And so, if we can just look at it and say, why am I feeling stuck? What is this thing? Is there something I'm afraid of?
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's probably old programming again.
Programming.
That's where it usually goes back to.
Mhm.
Um, so what is that old programming? And fear usually, we were talking about this before. One of the things that Gay Hendricks talks about are those 4 F's of fear. Um, and now I'm not gonna be able to remember them all. Flight, fight,
Freeze and faint.
freeze, and faint. Yes, those are okay. Flight and fight are easy because that's the ones we always think about.
Mhm.
Um, but I know a lot of us fall under the faint one, which
Mhm.
I didn't understand until he explained it, and it's really when we just kinda zone out, right?
Yeah. I thought, to me, it sounded like overwhelm, but you called it buffering, but I was like,
Yeah.
it sounded like overwhelm where we just spin around. We don't make decisions, which,
Lay on the couch and watch Netflix and eat Cheetos.
yeah.
Popcorn,
Yeah.
actually, we're both
Yeah.
popcorn people.
Right. Oh boy. Did you have to bring up popcorn?
Sorry,
Oh.
sorry.
That was my story last night. I actually said to my daughter, so I don't know what she said, but I was like, I was laying here thinking about how puffy I am from the popcorn I ate last night.
Yeah.
Popcorn.
And we do that because of some kind of fear. And so part of asking, one of the questions that we need to be asking is,
What am I
what
afraid
is
of?
yeah, what am I afraid of? Because it's usually something so simple and so small.
What am I afraid of, Sonya? Coach me on this. What is it? Like, I'm like, wait a minute, stop.
Back
I
it
think
up.
I think it's being behind.
Uh-huh.
That thought. I'm behind. I'm never going to catch up. Oh my God, I'm never going to catch up.
Yeah, I may know you too well to coach you on this because I wouldn't even ask you. I'd just be like, you're afraid that you're behind, that you're not doing enough.
Yes.
I'm just gonna lay it out for you. But you know what? How many of us women are deal with
Yes.
that same fear?
It and
I,
it
I'm not good enough. I'm not as good as the person next to me. We do it all the
and it
time.
feels like a hoo hockey when I tell myself, well, it's what I got done today. This is enough. I'm like, but it didn't get this whole list done over here. Oh, yeah, I get it. I know you get it too.
We all get it.
Whew.
I would challenge anybody. If you don't understand this problem, please comment because I want to pick your brain.
Right? What are you
You know?
doing?
Yeah. We all have the fear that we are not good enough.
Mhm.
And being able to name that, to be honest with it, And to be able to say, you know what? I, you got to talk back to it. I am good enough. And these are the reasons why.
Yeah.
I was coaching a client on this just the other day, and she was talking about all the reasons she wasn't a good mom. And I said, "So wait just a minute." I said, "Tell me some reasons you're an amazing mom." And she was like, "What?"
Yeah.
And tell me some reasons you're an amazing mom. You have two, teenage or almost grown kids. You've kept them alive. So tell me how.
Yeah.
And she started naming those. I said, "See, those are available to us. We don't focus on them
because of old
reason."
programming. We've just believed, we've just accepted that that's how it is, and we don't question ourselves.
Right.
Which, the key to a changed life is going to be to question everything.
Yes.
What else could be true here? And the better question to get unstuck.
Yeah.
What's a better question I could ask myself? I notice I'm thinking this way. What else? Wait a minute. How is this not true? What's a better question?
Yeah. And, usually most of the bad questions start with, well, why didn't I? Or why couldn't I?
No.
Those are not useful.
No. Those would even, I would go.
Those inside questions.
Right. And they're like indulgent too, because when you make it about the self, when you're stewing in that pot of making it about the self, it's just the brain just swirling around. It's another form of self-preservation.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. And it's not going to get us unstuck.
No.
So start looking outside.
Look outside.
What is this about? What am I afraid of? What have I committed to? What story have I committed to believing that's making me think this way? Move it outside of the self. And then look for that origin. What is that origin story?
Like the early programming?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I'm like, clarification here.
Yeah. No, yeah. Thinking about what causes this story that we're telling ourselves, that we're not good enough. I think women and motherhood is that's just a huge stick that we use to beat ourselves with. And it's because we have this story running in our culture about what a mother is supposed to be. And it's so unrealistic.
Because it's everyone, it's
all the things.
It's other people's highlight reels is what I think of. Like how social media has just torn us up, and how we don't want to post our, real life shit and the struggles that we have, which is so what I love about Corinne, right? Like she hangs all the things out there, all the struggles, and not the highlight reel.
Yeah.
Like real life shit.
Yeah. So, what is that origin story? It's probably not true to begin with. So once you realize what it is, toss it out. Get rid of it and start asking. Now, the question you go to is, how can I move forward? What little step can I take?
Yeah.
And
so my brain,
go ahead.
I was just thinking, like when I do find myself stuck, and I know we're focusing on asking a better question, but let's just see. I think to myself, what's one thing I can do right now, and what's one thing I can take off my list. I mean, I just keep it that simple. What's one thing that's going to move me forward, and just kind of always moving in that direction.
Yeah, and I love that because, it does give you that little, just that tiny little bit of momentum. Sometimes that's all you need. Like the guy who swept his neighbor's porch, that's all he needed.
And just the power of making that decision. What's one thing I can do, and what's one thing I can take off today? It feels empowering movement.
And one other thing I want to talk about, because both of us were interested in this, in something that we read about. When people ask a question, we're always like, what is the reason that making that sound,
Oh, yeah. So it's me,
no,
you.
go.
Yeah, so that was the connecting of the hemispheres. It's the only thing we can do that connect the right and the left hemisphere of the brain.
Yeah.
And I just like, it was just like such an aha, because I thought, I do consider myself a verbal processor and speaking it out loud. And I will coach my clients. I'm like, if you can't put it on paper, say it out loud.
Yeah.
What am I thinking? What am I feeling right now? What story is going on in my brain? Like, so that you can make these connections for yourself. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, if you think about it, meditation, when you think about very, I guess, formal meditation, I don't know if that's a thing or not, but they will hum. They will make that.
Which
And
is so interesting. Yeah, because you're thinking,
yeah.
Getting the brain going.
Yeah. So, do that. Try it. It may sound silly, but if that's all it takes, if that's all the momentum you have is to and focus on the question, how can I move forward? Don't focus on an answer. Focus on the question, how can I move forward? And
Oh, I love that, Sonya.
So I guess this week for our call to action, I'm going to encourage our listeners to try that. Have everybody out there humming to themselves. But when you feel yourself getting stuck, number one, what fear? Where is your fear coming from? Can you figure out the origin of it? And then what's one little step you can take to move forward? And I love the way you add taking one thing off your list, because that's like kind of a double pump there.
Yeah, it's like boom, decisions. Like this is bullshit right here. I can take this one off.
Yeah. Anything you want to add?
Oh, let's see. I think I was thinking of that. What's one thing when you find yourself stuck this week? What's one thing you can do right now? And what's one thing you can take off the list?
Yeah.
It gets you going.
That's right. That's all we're looking for, is just one little step forward. Get that momentum rocking.
Yeah. It's good to see you, Sonya.
It's good to see you too. And we will see you all again next week on the Coach's Cup. I haven't asked in a while, but if you enjoy this podcast, please go to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating.
Yes, do it.
You can give us a 4-star, but we'd really like a 5-star. And keep listening. Tell your friends about us.
Share the word.
That's right. All right. Well, we'll see you next week.